Welcome to the 24th video in this series making a swarm shooter with C++ and Raylib. In this video we're going to set up the homing movement of the enemy along with the targeting that we already have, and we'll add in the scorpion which can do the homing, and we'll also add the cliver in as well, which will be a retargeting enemy. So we'll start this one off inside the resourcekeys.hpp so that we can add in the textures that we're going to need for our other enemies. So I'm going to copy this down a couple of times here. We need the scorpion move, the scorpion death, and we also need the cliver move and the cliver death. And I'll change the names here as well. With that done, we can go to, where are we? Our resource manager. It feels like a while since we've been inside here, and we need to add these into here as well. So I'll put some space after this. And again, do the same as before. Let's drop these down into here. Go back to the keys, and we want the scorpion move and the scorpion death. And then here was the cliver. And then for the actual PNG names, I want to make a double check on this because I've got a feeling I think one of them is a slightly odd name. So we've got cockroach, death and move there. There you go, scorpion death -0. So I have to be a bit careful of that one. The move is normal though. So make sure you put the -0 on the end here, otherwise it's not going to load. And then the cliver death and move are normal. Okay, so that's those loaded in. So we can close that down and close down the resource keys. So let's now open up our enemy. Where are you? Our enemy.cpp. So at the moment we've got the values all hard-coded inside the constructor for the enemy, setting it up for the cockroach in the move and the death animations. The way the game's actually going to work is each time we spawn a new enemy, we're effectively going to pick one at random. So we won't be using then the constructor to actually set the enemy up. We'll do something similar to what we did actually with our book. So you might remember with the book, we've got the activate, and we send into there the texture name, and it selects its texture at activation. In other words, it can change its texture each time it's used. We're going to have an enemy pool, which we've already got actually with our enemy manager. And again, every time we spawn a new enemy, effectively it'll be set up to be a certain type of enemy. To do that, what we'll do is we'll make some definitions of our enemies in a structure so that we can put those somewhere, and then the enemy manager can use those to select the enemies at random. So let's go into the enemy.hpp, and then below the enemy state here, let's add in a structure, and we'll call that enemy def, which is going to contain the definition of our enemy. And inside there, we're going to have some of the properties that we've actually got down here. So we're going to need the retarget min, max, and the speed. So I'm going to be very naughty and copy all of these. Have to be a little bit careful here because copy and paste, as it already has done, can lead to trouble. We're going to have the speed, no retarget timer, the retarget min, and a retarget max. Then we're also going to have a collider radius, and I think if I remember correctly that was 30.0. And then we'll also put a scale as well. And then alongside this, we need the definitions also for our sprites. We have the move sprite and the death sprite. Now we could put a load of parameters in here, for example, death frame width, death frame height, and so on, but we'll end up with a very, very long list of things. So what we'll do is we'll make a definition actually for a sprite. So let's go to the sprite.hpp. And then above here, we can add ourselves a new struct, and that can be a sprite definition. Here we'll have a const char pointed to a texture key. And then we want the frame width, the frame height, and the frame count. So I'm going to copy these from down here and paste these in here. Then we also want the frames per second as well. Then a rotation offset, so I'll copy that from down the bottom here. And finally, whether it's looping or not. So we'll say bool and loop, and we can set that to false. And then going back to our enemy definition, we can add our sprite definitions in here. So we'll have a sprite def move and a sprite def death. And now let's alter the enemy so that we can set the enemy up from one of these definitions here. And we're not going to do that, as I said, through the constructor. Rather, what we're going to do if we go to the enemy manager.cpp, remember, yes, we have the spawn here. We're going to grab an enemy from the pool just like this, so a pointer to an enemy. And then what we'll do eventually is actually set the enemy up from an enemy definition inside here. To do that, let's go back to the enemy.cpp. And below the constructor, we're going to add ourselves an initialization or an init function that takes in a reference to a definition. Then let's go to the enemy.cpp for the implementation for this. So we'll stub out the implementation for the initialization, and I will set things up. So we'll start off with the sprite move. We're going to initialize that just as we are actually up here, except we're now going to use the values from the definition. So this is going to be our definition.move, which is the sprite dot, and then we want the texture key. Then the next one, if I just hover over that there, you can see is the frame width, then the frame height, then count, frames per second, and looping. So we have def.move.frameWidth, and I'm sure you get the idea here. So I'm actually going to do this and speed it up a little bit. So you can always pause the video if you want to, or take the code from GitHub. So that's the sprite move initialization done. It does need the rotation offset. We'll do that in a moment. First, I'll do the death one as well. So here we have the death. And then we can do the rotation offsets as well. I think I might actually do that below here. So rotation offset is equal then to def.move.rotation offset. And we can do the same thing then also for the other one. So that set up then our sprites from our definition. Let's scroll down a little bit. So other stuff we need to set up then, we need to get hold of the transform.and scale and set that equal to our definition.and scale. Our speed can be equal to our definition.speed. We have our collider, which we're going to initialize, and that will then be initialized with the radius. That will be our def dot and collider radius, and we send in the transform as well. And then we have our retargeting. So our retarget min is going to be equal to our def dot and retarget min, and then we have the max. So we're not using it yet, but we're now able, on an instance of an enemy, to invoke an init function, which is public, send in a definition, and it will set itself up according to that definition. One thing I'd like to actually add into here, which we'll probably adjust later on to make it random. For now, what we'll do is we'll transform.rotation, and we'll set that equal to 0.0f. So with that set up, we now need to be able to pass an enemy definition to an enemy when we're creating it, which means we need to create some enemy definitions. And we're going to do that on the enemy manager. So let's go to the enemy manager.hpp. And at the top here, what we can do is we can include vector. And we'll keep a vector of our definitions. So let's go down into here, and we can add ourselves in a standard vector enemy definitions, which we'll call defs. Then in the init function, we can set these up. So I'm going to right click, go to definition, and then inside the init here, we'll say that our defs is equal to an empty vector. And inside here, then we can put our definitions. We'll start off with the cockroach. So I'll open up some curly braces, and we'll initialize the structure directly. This is the sprite definition that we have here. So the first thing is the texture. If I scroll up a little bit, actually, we need the resource keys here, don't we? So let's get the resource keys. Down here, then we can get our key, and that's going to be then the cockroach move. Then we have pretty much the same numbers, I think, that we've got inside the enemy at the top here. So we can take the 64, the 64, the 8, and the 8.0. So I'm going to copy those and drop those into here. Then after this, in the sprite definition, if we look in the sprite.hpp, we have the rotation offset and then the looping, which is defaulting to false. So for this definition here, we'll have 90.0f, and then we are looping for this one, so we'll put true. I'm going to copy and paste that here. That's going to be the cockroach death. We have 64, 64. This one was 32, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, it's 32, then 64. The offset again is 90, and here this wasn't looping, so we'll put false. It does default to false, but we'll be explicit, I think, with this. And then we can set up the other values. If we go to the enemy.hpp, we have scale speed, collider radius, and then the retarget. So the scale is going to be 1.0f. The speed for this one, let's put the cockroach, let's say, at around, let's do 70.0f. The collider radius at 30.0. And then for the retargeting, we'll do this one really quick, 1.0f, so starting at 1 second, going up to 2 seconds. So that's the definition for our cockroach. Let's add a definition also for the scorpion. So I'm going to copy and paste this. This is now going to be the scorpion move and the scorpion death. Now this one's a little bit different. The size is the same, but I think the number of frames are different. So let's go and have a look. So we've got the scorpion move here. I thought so. That's 4 frames. They are 64 by 64, but it's 4 frames. And the death is 8 frames. That's all there is to that. So we'll go back to the enemy manager then. Actually, I'll close these down, close that down, and minimize this up as well so it doesn't get in the way. That's better. So we have 4 frames for the move. So we'll make this a 4. Then for the death, we have 8 here, and we'll make this 16. And then for the movement for the scorpion, let's make the scorpions a little bit slower. We'll make those 50. Actually, I'll make the cockroach 80 here, I think. And then for the retargeting, let's make this a little bit longer. So it's noticeably longer than, say, for the cockroach. So we'll do, say, 1.7. So a bit of overlap. Maybe go up to 4 seconds here. And now let's take a look at the cleaver. So I'm going to copy that and paste that and remove the final comma from here. So this will be our cleaver move and our cleaver death. And now I've closed this up. I need to open it out again. So let's find the, where are we? The cleaver death. We can see that that one is 16 frames. And then the cleaver move here is 8 frames. So I'll close that down and close that and close that to go back to the enemy manager. So the death was 16 frames. So I'll change that to 16 and that to 32. And the movement was 8 frames. So that then can be an 8 and an 8.0. Control S to save. And actually maybe with the cleaver we'll make it a little bit quicker, shall we? So we'll make this maybe 100.0f. And for the timings for this one, we can go from, I don't know, we can go from say 2.0 to 3.0. Just for a little bit of variability. So they've all got the same retargeting behavior. We haven't done any homing or anything like that, but what we have done now is set up some definitions that we can then pass to the enemy's initialization when we want to create a new one. Before we do that though, let's go back to the enemy.cpp. We no longer need the constructor here at all. We've set that up and we've set that up, so we can just simply get rid of these. In fact, we can get rid of the entire constructor. We don't need it. Let's go back to the enemy.hpp. And on the constructor here, we'll just type the equals default. So with that done, we have one final thing to do in the enemy manager. We want now to pick one of these definitions at random each time we want to spawn an enemy. So at the moment, inside the spawn here, we're getting hold of the enemy and then activating and setting the player. We also now want to initialize with a random definition. Now we can either select one at random inside the spawning, or what we can do is pass one in. And I think I prefer the passing in because then we can spawn something with a specific definition if we need to. So let's update the definition of this then to actually take in a constant reference to an enemy definition. And we need to add this into the enemy manager as well at the top here. And then back inside the enemy manager, the red lines have gone away. What we can do now is initialize our enemy with this definition. And finally then what we have to do is actually pick a random one to send in here. So we'll say then int, and we'll get our type index. That's going to be equal to, and we can get a random value. And we want to go from 0 to an integer cast of our def size -1. And then finally, last but not least, we can send in the reference. And breathe, we've done quite a lot there, but we've now done, I think, all of the setup that we need to be randomly spawning our different enemies into the game, and they should have slightly different speeds and retargeting timings as well. So what remains then is to run the application with F5 and see how much I've managed to break. So it seems to have built, which is good, and we have a window, which is also good. Do we get some enemies? We have some red dots, so let's see what we have. Okay, we've got scorpions, and I think those are the clivers as well, aren't they? Yeah, I can see we've got the cockroaches and the clivers. Cool, okay, so we've got all of our enemy types, and I did notice also they're moving with distinctly different speeds as well. So I noticed that the scorpion is moving a lot slower than whichever one this is. That the cliver or the cockroach? I can never remember. But anyway, we've got our 3 different types of enemies. And also the death animation played really nicely there. I want to wait for the next wave actually to come in. To do that, I need to collect the books, don't I? So I'll quickly speed this up. Okay, so that wave completed. I just want to check the death animations of the other enemies. So yours, oh, that looks good. Excellent. And yours also looks good. And yours looks good. Excellent. Cool. So cute, quit, and close down the terminal. And doing it like this has really given us actually quite a bit of flexibility. As I'm sure you can appreciate, we could add in, even with the same animations, now the same looking enemies with different behaviors and parameters. And later on, if we wanted to in the game, we could actually load these in from a configuration file. So we'd be able to actually customize our enemies and set them up without actually having to touch the game code itself. That's for later though. What I'd like to do now is implement the homing behavior. And we're going to put that on our scorpion. So the homing is where it literally homes in like a homing missile on the player. We'll restrict its turn speed though, so that you can escape down the sides of it if necessary. So it's not going to be perfect turning and facing the player. To do this, let's go to the enemy.hpp and we'll add in a new enumerated constant into here. We can call that enemy behavior. And then we're going to have a retarget and homing. Then in the enemy definition, we can give this then an enemy behavior, and we'll set that initially to enemy behavior retarget. Then also we'll give it a float, which will be a turn speed, and that can be 90 degrees per second, and also spelled correctly without a capital P. And then let's grab hold of these and go down into the enemy here, and at the bottom, what we can do is give it also these properties. So we've got the behavior and the turn speed. Then we'll go into the initialization for the enemy, and in the initialization here also then we can set up the behavior, which is going to be equal to def.behavior, and the turn speed will be def.turnSpeed. And to get this to work, it's actually quite straightforward. We simply, in the update, in the enemy state moving, need to change the way it's behaving depending on whether it's retargeting or homing. Now before we implement this in code, it's probably worth telling you how we're going to implement it. There are a load of different ways to do homing, and I've chosen what I think is the most straightforward way in terms of sort of looking at the code. So effectively what we're going to do is going to find the vector from where the scorpion is, let's say, to where the player is. And remember that the 0 degree line is effectively along here that I've just drawn there. So what we're going to do is going to find the angle of this particular vector here. Now the result that we'll actually get is this large angle here. Then what we're going to do is take the angle that the scorpion is rotated at. So I'll put that in red here. So that will be this angle out to here. And then for how much we need to turn towards the player, we're going to subtract from this large angle, the scorpion's angle. Now that would actually give us a very big angle, something that's a little bit like this, let's say. So if we were wanting to home towards the player from this diagram here, using the maths that we've just looked at would make us actually turn to the right clockwise, which we don't want. We actually in this case want to turn left or anti-clockwise because that's the shorter route to the player. So once we've got this angle where we've subtracted from the full angle the rotation of the scorpion, we're then going to adjust it so that it's within -180 and 180. And once we've done that, we've then got the direction that we actually want to turn and also how much we want to turn to face the player. Then we'll compute how much exactly we can turn, so we're limited by our turn speed. And then we'll compare both of these, and the amount that we will turn or rotate in that particular frame will be the lowest of the two. So if the angle that we need to turn is less than what we could turn, then we'll use that. Otherwise, we'll be restricted by our turn speed. Now, it's very rare that the angle that we want to turn is actually less than our turn speed, but it does happen, and you actually see it in some games when this isn't accounted for, and you get this kind of wiggling that happens when things are homing in. That's usually because the algorithm is purely saying turn by the amount that we can turn, our turn speed times delta time in that direction. That then overshoots, and you end up with this slight wiggling effect. So we're going to do this down here to make sure that we don't have any of that wiggling. So in the enemy.hpp, let's add ourselves a private function in here that we can use actually to implement this homing steering. So we'll call this homing steer. Then we can go into the enemy.cpp. And then I think we'll put this below the retarget here. So we'll have our homing steer. So we want to compute the desired angles. We'll say float desired. That will be the angle to target degrees, and that will be our transform position and the player get position. Then we can get this difference. We'll say float diff, and that can be equal to desired minus the transform rotation. So we have our desired angle, but as I said in the slide, that could be going effectively clockwise when we want to go counterclockwise. So what we're going to do is wrap it such that it fits between the minus 80 and the plus 180. There are quite a few ways of doing this, but I thought visually the simplest was to use a while loop. Don't worry about this, it'll actually usually only run once, but we'll say while the diff is greater than 180.0f, we'll subtract 360 from it. That should instantly actually bring it within those bounds. Then we'll put another one here, and we'll say whilst the diff is less than minus 180, then we'll add on 360 degrees. Now these two lines here look absolutely horrible in terms of we could end up sitting forever in while loops. The reality is they don't, it's instant, and we just adjust the bounds of the angle. So now diff will represent our angle that we're going to turn either clockwise or counterclockwise, up to an amount of 180 degrees. What we need to do now is find out how much we can actually turn. So we'll say that our max step that we can do is going to be equal to our turn speed multiplied by delta time. Then if the amount of diff that we have is greater than our max step, then the diff can be equal to the max step. And equally, if our dip is less than minus max step for going the other way, then our diff is going to be equal to minus of the max step. So this is this limiting I was talking about to prevent us doing this sort of overshoot. So now we have the amount that we want to rotate. We can grab hold of our transform.rotation and we can add on our diff. And finally, last but not least, all we need to do now inside the update is invoke this if we have a behavior that's actually homing. So here after the moving statement, we will say that if our behavior is homing, then we'll invoke our homing steer with delta time. Otherwise, we'll do the timer retargeting. So I'll take these lines from here, cut and paste them inside here. And that should be us homing. The final thing we need to do is actually get the definition correct so that we actually have the homing behavior in there. And that's in the enemy manager. I was going the wrong place. That's inside here, isn't it? Now I think the default value of these is actually already set to, let's have a look, to have retargeting and with 90 degrees turn speed. Nevertheless, let's be explicit with these actually. So we'll have an enemy behavior and retarget. And here the turn speed really doesn't actually matter. I'm going to put 90.0f anyway. And maybe we want to later on limit the turn speed also of the retargeting enemies. I'll copy that and paste that down here and paste that down here, except for the scorpion. We want now the homing behavior. So do Control S to save. And that should have our scorpions now homing on us. Now they were a little bit slow, so I'm actually going to up the speed of these maybe to 70. The clivers are really quick at 100, and the cockroaches, maybe you can go to 85. Maybe I'll put the clivers actually at 110. Hopefully we can still escape them. We'll soon find out. So let's run the game then, and see if we actually have some enemies, or some scorpions, should I say, homing in on us. So here we go. First wave, we have some enemies, and I can see a scorpion. Yep, and it's already homing in on us. Oh, cool. That behavior is working really, really well. Very, very nice. Okay, and the others are retargeting as well. Excellent. The turn speed is actually quite quick, I can see there, although they are moving also slowly, but they're following us and homing quite well there. That's quite nice. So I'm going to press Q to close that down and close this down as well. I'd like to just double check the homing turning speed here. I'm going to make this really slow. Let's do something like 5 degrees, shall we? Let's run the application again and see if we see any difference. Now the scorpions are moving quite slowly, so they might still be able to face us all of the time, even with that slower turning speed. Let's have a look what we get. So we've got some enemies. Do we have a scorpion anywhere? Yes, and now you can definitely see they're unable. They're far too slow with the turning here, trying desperately to home, but not making it. Good, so I'll close that down, and maybe be a little bit fairer and put that back up to 70. Control S to save. And I was about to do sort of an outro for this particular video when I did realize, when I was looking sort of off screen, if you like, at the code, that the copy and pasting here, as ever, it's dangerous. And here I put a little bit of a bug, didn't I? This should be the def.death inside here. My apologies for that. I'm sure you've already noticed it. The code, of course, on Git will be corrected. Now, though, we can go to the outro. And with that done, I think that's a good place to stop this video. Again, as ever, we've done a lot there, but we've come a really long way. We're now pretty flexibly able to set up different kinds of enemy behaviors. And as I've said, we could even think about later on in the series actually reading all of this in from a config file, and we could then adjust the behavior of the game without even having to touch the actual deployed application. The next video, you'll be glad to know, is going to be a little bit simpler. We're simply going to mess around with the UI a bit, see if we can put some statistics and things like accuracy and score on the screen so we know actually how well we're doing. But for now, as I said, I think that's a good place to stop this one. Thanks so much for watching. Comments, questions, welcome as always on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.